read Scripture, are you like me? Do you think, well, I kind of like to be like that guy? When I think of the apostles, my number one choice for who I would like to be like is Paul. But now, I also think I probably am like this guy, or this woman, this case may be. And the fellow I think I'm most like of the apostles is Peter. I talk before I think, sometimes. I act quickly when I probably should have just slowed down a minute and thought it through and realized where I was going with that thing. When you think about Peter, what is the most outstanding thing that comes to mind? Unfortunately, I fear, despite all the good that he did, is the denial. Denying Christ 3 times. Did you somehow or other 6 out? And it's one of those things that I suppose that he didn't ever feel like he got over himself. And certainly for those of us who read about him, we are confronted constantly with that thought. But have you ever realized in your own life, and therefore in the life of Peter and others, that in reality that nothing happens in a vacuum? Let me explain what I mean. There must have been steps that led up to that point. I don't believe it just happened just like that, just on the spur of the moment. Instead, I think that there are steps that lead to denial. And so today and tomorrow, and that's what we're going to talk about, steps that lead to denial. If you would, a good man's fall. And then on Wednesday, what we'd like to do is talk about a good man's return. What did it take for him to come back? What were the things that brought him back? And he ends up being such a powerful servant of the Lord. Let's begin with the steps that led to denial. And I think, for me at least, it's a surprise how soon that you see one of those steps. That step is he doubted. Matthew chapter 14 is one of those chapters, whether we remember the location or not, we all remember the story. How that Jesus fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Now, I want all of us for a moment to think about the power that was necessary to be able to feed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. I mean, really, someone who could do that could do anything. He's God. God come down to earth. God with us. Just like the angel said from the book of Isaiah. He truly was God with us. After he got through feeding the multitudes, you remember what he did? He told the apostles, you go on, get in the boat, go on across the Sea of Galilee. Meanwhile, Jesus sent the crowds on their way. And having done that, he went up into the mountain to pray. Now, on up into the night, Jesus was finishing his praying, and the apostles were not yet across the sea. Apparently, for what I can read here, and for what we know geographically, they normally would have been across. But they weren't this night because the winds were contrary to them. They were blowing against them. And so, as you will recall, Jesus at that point begins to go across the sea. But he doesn't use a boat to do it. He walks on the water. Pick up with me now, if you will, verse 25 of Matthew chapter 14. Now, in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. Now, in the other records, if you follow the parallel accounts, you'll discover that it says he intended to just walk on by. He really wasn't going to get in the boat to go the rest of the way. He was just going to walk across the sea and meet them on the other side. But something happened. Listen to what is reported here. It's reported elsewhere as well. And when the disciples disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I. Do not be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." So he said, "Come." When Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go with Jesus. Now, the story stopped right there. We probably would view Peter as the man with the greatest faith of all time. I mean, can you imagine getting out of the boat and walking on water? I can't, I don't see me doing that. And somehow or other, I'm not sure my doubts would let me climb over the edge, just to be honest about it. But Peter does it. And he walks toward the Lord on the water. Now notice verse 30. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came to worship him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." He doubted. Now, we might ask what I believe is a very pertinent question. Why did he doubt? And all I can tell you within this text, and again in the parallel accounts, is this. He took his eyes off of Jesus. As long as his eyes were focused on the Lord, it looks like everything was good. But when he began to focus on the things around him, we began to see the ways that were being tossed and the effects of the powerful wind that they've been confronting as they try to get across the sea. It's then that he begins to sink. But for what we're trying to see today, the important thing is he doubted. Don't you know that we've got to be aware of that very same thing? Hebrews chapter 3, verse 12. The writer to the Hebrew Christians said, "Beware, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God." It cost the Israelites the promised land. It can cost us the promised land as well. So Peter's first step toward denying was doubting. The second step is he thought like the world. Now this one comes in what may be, at least to me, the most remarkable chapter to find it in all the New Testament. It comes from Matthew chapter 16. You're familiar with that chapter. You've probably gone over it a multitude of times. Jesus came to the borders of the coast of Caesarea Philippi. He asked that great question. Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? Well, men were on the right track, they just weren't quite there. And by the way, that is a note that you and I need to seize upon. There are men around us, there are women around us who are on the right track, they're just not quite there yet. We need to help them so that they can go all the way, so that they can fully understand. But then Jesus says, "But whom say ye that I am?" And it's then that Peter says, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And of course, Jesus said, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also to thee that thou art Peter, upon this rock I will build my church. And I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and wherever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he commanded his disciples that they should tell no one that he was Jesus the Christ. Mountaintop moment. That's what that was. In my mind it is a mountaintop moment. To hear the Lord praise you, to hear the Lord acknowledge that his Father, through the miracles that Jesus had done, and I suspect had revealed to Peter who this was. That's a mountaintop experience. But have you noticed in your life that mountaintop experiences are often followed by valleys? and that the valleys often are as deep as the mountaintop was? Well, I'm afraid that's what happens here. Listen to the next thing that Matthew reports. From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised the third day. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, Far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you. But he turned and said to Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but of the things of men. Now, I really want to zero in on the last part, but I think we ought to notice one little tidbit there we don't want to miss. Get behind me, Satan. Have you ever called your best friend, the people that you love the most, can actually, in your life, be an agent of Satan? They can be a tool of Satan. That's the point I'm making. I'm not accusing your friends of mine, your loved ones of mine, of being intentionally an ally of Satan, but they may, through their suggestions, through their ideas, they may point us in the wrong direction. Jesus sees that in Peter. He's not going to accept it. Not going to take it at all. But what made Peter do that is that point that seems most significant to me. You are not mindful of the things of God, but of the things of men. Talk like the world. In the book of 1 John, chapter 2, you all know that passage, verse 15, where John says, Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passes away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. And so there we have it, don't we? Peter's problem is that he's in love with the world's ideas. The world's ideas at this point in time about Jesus is that if he's really the Messiah, he's going to lead them in victory over the Roman army. Don't be talking about dying. We need you to keep living. We need you to keep on going because we want to be back in charge again. That's worldly thing. I would warn all of us, especially in the current climate, that there is a temptation for us to be influenced by the things of the world. I want to make a suggestion to you. Forget about worrying about who the president is. I'm not just talking about because right now we have a Republican up there named Trump. I can be talking about we have a Democrat there named Obama, who a few years ago. Or we can go before that, we talk about a Republican named Bush, or we can go before, you know what I'm doing, go all the way back, go as far back as you want. Here's what we need to realize. If you go before, look at Genesis chapter 14. When he looked at that passage, he noted that Melchizedek is described as priest of Most High God. And Brother McCord said the easiest way for us to understand that is to say commander-in-chief. Don't worry about the commander-in-chief in Washington. Why not? Because there's a real commander-in-chief in heaven. Peter doesn't understand that. And it's evident, isn't it? And it's also costly. You and I need to remember the words of the Lord, Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Peter's second step is thinking like the world. Third step, boasting. Turn over, if you will, in the book of Mark. We've been focused in Matthew. We're going to go to Mark chapter 14 now. As we go there, you may remember what's going on. Jesus now is looking toward his death, which is imminent. Now, he's been warning them about it for some time, but now it's at hand. It's very nearby. And so in Mark 14:27, notice, then Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to stumble because of me it is written, I'll strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee. Jesus makes a prediction. Everybody. All of them. I'm a little bit influenced. I've just been sitting down there listening to Ronnie and reading Brother Kent's stuff to me. Oddly enough, on this exact subject, he didn't exactly know where I was going, but hey, but he's reading it to me. And Brother Kent noted that he didn't say everybody except Peter. He didn't say everybody except John. He said all. Everybody's going to be offended. And that's really what's here, isn't it, within the text. Now listen to the response of Peter. You remember it. Peter said to him, even if all are made to stumble, yet I will not be. Listen to that boast. I am, if you put in modern day language, I'm number one. You can't beat me. I'm number one, right? Isn't that kind of the way he's putting it? Well, listen. Jesus said to him, surely I say to you, today, even this night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But he spoke more vehemently. I have to die with you. I will not deny you. And they all said likewise. By the way, those tidbit, Peter's a natural leader. You ever notice that? You wait till John 21, which we may refer to later this week. You look at John chapter 21, Peter says, I go fishing, and the other 6 fellows said, we're going to. Peter says, I have to die with you. And that's fine. But I'm not going to deny you. And all the rest of them say, we're ready to. We're ready to die. See, they just naturally follow Peter. But the problem is, this is not a good time to follow him. Because he's boasting, he's expressing an outward confidence that is not apparently supported by an inner strength. And there's a warning from the Apostle Paul that really extends to all of us. Isn't it? 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. Wherefore let him that think he standeth take heed lest he fall. Peter's third step into denial was boasting. And then, oddly enough, it's followed by sleeping. Mark chapter 14, story continues, verse 32. Then they came to a place which was named Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, sit here while I pray. And he took Peter, James, and John with him, and he began to be troubled and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch. Now, the words stay here and watch in the original are both imperatives. This is not a request. This is not a suggestion. This is a command. Stay and watch. And the word watch there, literally translated, fully translated, would be stay awake and watch. I mean, after all, if you're out there in the middle of enemy territory and there is liable as not to shoot at you, do you want a guy on guard duty who sleeps through the night? Not me. I want somebody who stays awake. The Lord is in a time of terrible internal turmoil. You can see that in the prayer that he prays, and all he's asking them, though, what he's commanding them is, stay here and stay awake and watch while I suffer. Well, he goes on. He went a little further and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will. Then he came and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, have you ever wondered why Peter? Well, Peter's the one that said it. Everybody else else may leave you, Lord, but not me. If I have to die with you, Lord, I'll be there. And now here he is. The Lord needs him just to watch. Stay awake and watch. And what about it, Peter? He's asleep. And so he says, Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And therein lies my problem. And I would suspect many other people's problem. I've got the desire, I've got the want to. Do I have the work, the follow through to make it happen? We too are charged with the importance of staying awake. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14. The Apostle Paul says, awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you life. Now, if you know about the book of Ephesians, you'll remember that there was a time when they were dead in trespassing and sin. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1. Now he's warning them, you're going to sleep spiritually, and if you're not careful, you're going to be dead spiritually. Wake up! Wake up! I think we need to hear that as well. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 6, Paul says, therefore, let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober. Think about it. We live in an era when we cannot afford to let our guard down. We've got to stay ever vigilant. We've got to defend the faith at all times. And that's more than just an outward, showy, boastful commitment. It's an inward determination that we need to have. Peter eventually denied the Lord. Why? Well, I see for today these 4 steps. He doubted. He thought like the world. He slept. He boasted first, and then he slept. Tomorrow we'll look at the other steps that finally end up where we rather didn't, but it does. If you're here today and you have been studying, you realize that you need to respond to Jesus Christ. You need to, maybe like Peter,